Story 1. Caught my dad doing it with house help who's my age. 20F. My younger brother caught him in the act. My mother. Depressive, suicidal, attempted a couple of times, dependent. Would never leave my father like I'm 100% sure she would never leave him. She would be hurt and try to kill herself and cry and cry and cry. But she would forgive him eventually. He has had multiple affairs, and she has always forgiven him after a few hours of crying. That man begged my 14-year-old brother to not tell anyone, and my brother agreed because he saw his dad crying. Why are men like this? 22 years of marriage and 4 kids, and he still can't keep it in his pants. I feel disgusted. He doesn't know. I know. I am never getting married. I want him to know that I know, and I want him to feel ashamed. He did it with a 20-year-old, same age as me. I feel disgusted. I can't even get myself to call him names. I want to forget this ever happened. I'm so scared that my mom will find out somehow and try to kill herself again, and no one will find out. I don't know what to do. Funniest part is that the person is still working at our house, and they are still acting chill and pretending that it's never happened. How do I get the person fired without framing the person for something? I have severe anxiety and have been getting a lot of panic attacks. How do I deal with this? Story 2. I don't know how to take her back. So going through a divorce right now. My wife and I fell apart pretty bad at the end of it. I found out she was talking to a pro baseball player before she filed for divorce. It wasn't like her at all to go out looking for another guy's attention or put herself in that situation. When I found out about the young guy from Mississippi who got drafted as a pitcher, I had to know the truth and every detail about this relationship that was going on behind my back. At first she said they only talked and that was it. But as I kept asking, going practically crazy about it, she said she sent him selfies, but only in a bra. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked and hurt. She always acted like she was Hem's perfect and never did nothing wrong to no one or anything. I kept on asking for about a month because every time I'd ask, the story would change a lot. She said they never met up, but she was always going to the town he was playing minor leaguer for a while. And I mean, she was going like 3 times a week, even had tickets waiting for her and my kids at the gate for a game they went to watch. And she became very distant. She swears nothing happened and she never saw him. But I'm a guy and I know exactly what was happening. Story 3. My husband's a hoe and women have no respect for marriage anymore. January 2024 was the beginning of a storm I never saw coming. My husband, 21M, the man I had vowed to spend my 23F life with, started seeking solace elsewhere. It began innocuously enough. A new coworker named Sarah, 45F, entered his life. She was his mother's age, and I thought nothing of it at first. But by their second meeting, he confided in her about our private struggles, telling her he was unhappy with the lack of intimacy in our marriage. He texted her on and off for 6 months, a timeline I would only piece together later. And during that time, he used Snapchat to talk to other women as well. Somewhere in that mess, he crossed a line I never imagined he would. He hooked up with his best friend, Caprane, and Caprane's girlfriend, Sydney. And when things didn't go as planned with Sydney, he couldn't get it up. They brought in another woman, Kyra, but the same thing happened. By May, I started noticing changes. My husband was distant, distracted, and irritable. Kathanine, the friend I had fought to keep in his life for years, started speaking poorly about me over their game chats. Head. I didn't think much of it at the time, but in hindsight, it was another piece of the puzzle. Kathleen wasn't just a friend. He was someone I had defended for 7 years. His brother was with my sister-in-law. His family and my husband's had turned against him after dark events. I won't detail here, but I saw him as a kindred spirit. My husband's family was cruel to me too, and I thought we were all on the same side. I stood up for Cam when no one else would, even when my husband wanted nothing to do with him. July was when the storm finally broke. One night, I came home to find my husband passed out drunk on our bed, covered in vomit. Normally, when he drank, he was affectionate and sweet. But this time, he called me a bitch, over and over again, a word he knows I hate. I coaxed him into the shower, and as he stumbled away, something in me snapped. I picked up his phone. What I found shattered me. Sarah was saved under a fake name, Kane, but the messages were unmistakable. He told her he loved her, that he wanted her body, that he wanted to run away with her and her child. Here. He said he wasn't happy with me. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of deceit. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I found out Castellane knew about Sarah. The final blow came just before Christmas. That's when I learned about the hookups with Cappy Munn, Sydney, and Kyra. The betrayal was staggering, not just from my husband, but from people I thought I could trust. I confronted Sydney, hoping for some semblance of remorse, but she was smug, her apologies hollow. She even tried to compare my pain to her Kane, talking to other girls. It wasn't the same, not by a long shot. She had pursued my husband, knowing full well he was married. What's worse is, the very next day, Kelaine proposed to her. It's crazy to think that someone who obviously has no respect for marriage could boast about it herself. My husband is trying to make up for it, but I hate him for it, and I hate the women involved just as much. I've always been shy, and have tried my best to be likable, because I have a hard time reading social cues and understanding the social norms of society, so I don't actually have any friends or family to fall back on. So, since I have no one else to tell, I decided that Reddit loves this kind of shit, and maybe I can get some advice on how to better myself mentally. Story 4. Found out my mom cheated on my dad. Advice needed. I am 18F, and I found out my mom, 40F, cheated on my dad, 40M, few months ago. I found texts on her phone telling a man that she loves him, and pretty sure she has had physical relations with him too. My parents and I have really close relationship. Even during my teen YRS, I used to prefer hanging out with them rather than my friends. I share everything in my life real with them, and they've really my biggest supporters. But they don't have a relationship at all. My father was forced into this marriage, and my mother had really high expectations from this marriage, seeing her parents' marriage. My parents had an arranged marriage, but my father never gave her what she wanted and never took her side during the time my grandma or aunt, father's side of the family, harassed my mom. He always defended them, saying that they wanted best for my mom. My mom is a really good person. She has been taking in foster kids and animals as long as I can remember and takes care of us, sometimes even at her expense. I love her SM, but she is also an oversharer, and once during her rant she told me that my father and her haven't had $X since 6 years. My father even forgot her birthday this year and treats her with respect, a gift to a stranger, not like his wife. She feels completely isolated from my family and only interacts with them if necessary. But she has never told me to act badly towards them, and when I saw what was happening to her and acted out, she scolded me that she has beefed with them, not me, so I should respect them. The thing I'm feeling guilty about is not telling my father. But I feel like it's justified for my mother's end too. She wanted a loving husband but is stuck him, an unloving husband. My father is a really conservative and pure man. He rarely shouts and is really patient, but he never takes my mom's side. He is really loving towards me and respects my opinions. He is setting a really high expectations for me too. But he doesn't love my mom and doesn't give her a clean cut from a life him. One of his sisters had cheated on her husband, and he cut off any contacts her and isn't even cordial her during family reunions. They had a really close relationship before, and her husband was my father's really good childhood friend. He did same one another friend of his too. In short, he hates disloyal PPL. I do not plan to tell him Abbott mom's cheating as of now, but I just wanted advice from PPL who have experienced this kind of situations. Please be kind. Story 5. My girlfriend, 36F, cheats with a 56M at her work and in the park. 5-year relationship. I have read so many similar stories, so wanted to share what happened to me last year. A year ago, we tried for a baby, but we had a miscarriage 3 months in, which was a tough time for both of us. After, someone at her work started giving her some extra emotional support and went for walks every day at lunch. A few months later, I noticed she was being really difficult, short, and always angry with me. Even though I was there for her, paid for everything, and took her on some expensive holidays. After confronting her, she told me about this guy she has feelings for and that they have kissed. I read her phone a few days later, and she was messaging him even when we were on holiday and being all loved up with words like twin flames, etc. Pretty sickening. I was devastated, but we decided to give it another go as long as she cuts all ties with him. She was happy that we were having a reset, the relationship was good for a while. 6 months go by, and I noticed she was being horrible to me again, so I said to her that I do not think things are working and we should break up. A week later, she tells me that she tried to give him up, but they slept together multiple times in their factory, in the park where they go for walks, and preformed oral on each other. A lot of this happened while I was abroad for work. I left the house that night and moved out 2 weeks later. She has been begging for me to come back since. The guy basically love-bombed her at a time when she was at her weakest, which is why I let it go the first time. The guy is also married with kids. Would like to know if anyone went through something similar. Story 6. Me 28F, guy 29M, cheating on fiancé 29F. I will tell her, but I have this immense pressure and fear of confrontation. I have been dealing with hot and cold guy for a few months on Snapchat to the point of calling it out. Right around New Year's, he admitted to being engaged. After research, I discovered our Snapchat fling started a week after his engagement in the autumn. When he told me recently he is engaged and wants to remain friends with me because after all we were just friends catching up, I instantly called him out on this bizarre crap he is pulling. I refuse to be in on the cheating. That's ratchet. I'm going to send her his and mine last conversation of him admitting he is engaged after no kidding inappropriate relationship. I know I'm not the only one. He was having no kidding inappropriate affairs on Snapchat, but I'll give her at least this. With the story, I will instantly block her after sending some receipts. I don't care about the outcome. I don't want to talk to her. I absolutely don't want to talk to him. I just want to drop evidence and GTFO. Story 7. Happy New Year's to me. Me, 21M, and wife, 21F, have been, and technically are, still married for 2 years. A little over a year ago now, I cheated on my wife. She got mad, obviously, and we started working and repairing our marriage. It was hard, tough, and difficult, testing at times, but I thought it was getting better. Then today, I'm driving home from dropping off my friend, 34M, home, and I get a call from my wife. Knew I was out, knew who I was with, and where I was going, all of a sudden asking me if I'm cheating, who I'm with, where I'm at. And I was literally 5 minutes from driving into the driveway. Of course I say so, and I get home and go inside. And she instantly wants to see my phone. So I let her no hesitation, didn't have anything to hide, or so I thought. In September, I texted an old friend of mine. Hi, got no response. In December, I got some stupid scam text from a female scammer, nothing sexual at all. And then she went to Snapchat, where it really went downhill. In November, I told some girl that she was pretty. That was her breaking point. Saying I needed permission to text a girl, I should never, ever even text a female, ever. Meanwhile, I never did anything wrong. Am I in the wrong? Am I that horrible? Now she wants a divorce. Why does it seem like she was looking for a way out? She wouldn't believe me when I would tell her I wasn't seeing anyone or talking to anyone like that. Why am I suffering after working so hard for her to trust and love me? Why am I feeling like I'm being punished for doing nothing wrong? Am I a horrible person? I know I messed up, but why can't I redeem myself to the person I love? I've tried. I've tried so hard and got nothing. Now I'm looking to soon be divorced. And I have nothing at the moment. I have the clothes on my back, clothes for work, and that's it. I'm alone. Story 8. Never thought I'd be in this situation, but my girl might have a crush on my brother. So this is crazy, but I had my partner over at my family's house, and I was too tired to walk her home one night. Turns out that as she was walking down the hall and out of the house, my younger bro happened to be leaving the kitchen, only in underwear. She sent a voice message telling me about how awkward and embarrassed she felt, but her voice sounded really jumpy and nervous. She's 22 and he's 21, with me being the oldest, 23 meters. It's very noticeable how nervous and jumpy she is around him now, and since then I've almost always caught her glaring at him when she thinks he might be walking by in general or grabbing something nearby. She also insisted on me giving her his number, like, wouldn't take no for an answer. When I told her, he casually told me to say hi to her, to say hi back. She also can't stop asking me about him or mentioning him somehow. When we're alone together, sometimes she zones out while I'm talking to her but magically becomes engaged in the conversation when I say something about him. I'm beyond jealous, but refuse to talk to her about it because we just recently got married, and NGL introducing this topic is pretty embarrassing to me in the sense that I have too much respect for myself to talk to my girl about how wet she gets with that image of my brother's bulge in tight underwear walking past her shoulder to shoulder. Later on, I also find out she wasn't wearing panties, just a long skirt. And since that night, she's completely stopped wearing panties when coming over, although IDK if she's just doing it to mess with me, since she always dresses modestly in a long skirt when she's around. Story 9. My ex cheated in the beginning and continued to lie the entire relationship. Originally, I was in a kind of fuckboy stage where I was hurting from another ex, and every time I got close to a woman, I cut it off for both our sakes. Probably not the best move, IK. I met this girl I'll call A, and she was super persistent with me, and I couldn't help but catch feelings, so I went through the cycle of trying to cut it off. A friend of mine convinced me it was time to break the cycle and try and make it work, so I reached back out, and we both agreed to keep talking and see how it goes. A few months later, we end up dating right before work takes me away from the area for a bit. During this time, she had some guy come over twice, and they spent 2 weekends together unknown to me as I couldn't have my phone for a month. I came back and everything seemed fine with us. We had a rocky relationship, breaking up twice before the final one. Eek probably was toxic. During one of these times, she saw the guy again the very next day. We eventually were trying to make it work, and it was going really well for us. We were in love, and we spent as much time as we could together. One day, as she stayed at my place, I saw a weird text and This is probably messed up. I took her phone while she was asleep and checked the text. It was innocent, but I figured while I was there, I could look up my name in her texts, only to see not insert my name in her texts. Curiously, I checked it out to see she was talking to a friend about having a boy over that wasn't me at the time that I was away. I had her text him, "Wanna fuck again," when I confronted her, and she said that he just hung out but didn't do anything. He didn't respond after a few hours, so I had her call him, and he told all. She hung up and I called him, and he told me everything and sent proof with dates. Dead to rights was the only time she admitted it. There is a lot more to the story, but that's only if people are interested. There is a lot more that happened after and a lot more I left out. I am just struggling to move on and felt it would help to put it out there somehow. Story 10. Should you consider micro-cheating as infidelity? Hello, I'm currently in college, and for my project, I'm to write an argumentative essay regarding any topic I wished. And I had decided upon micro-cheating as it. I myself believe that micro-cheating is infidelity, but I would like to know other frames of references from other proponents, both who believe it is cheating and those who don't. I would very much be grateful if anyone could tell me why they believe it to be cheating or not, in order for me to fully build and detail my argument, counter-argument, and rebuttal. If you guys could provide me with explanations, it would greatly help. Thank you and have a good day or night. Micro-cheating refers to subtle actions or behaviors that, while not considered outright cheating, can still create feelings of distrust or discomfort within a relationship, often involving flirtatious interactions, secretive messaging, or excessive online attention towards someone outside of the committed partnership, essentially crossing a boundary without fully engaging in infidelity. Source: Google examples: flirting with coworkers, liking suggestive photos on social media, messaging an ex, keeping a dating profile active while in a committed relationship. Source: Google. Story 11. My reslistation makes me even angrier. It's been 10 months since I discovered I was cheated on. Over that time, I've had moments of clarity, but a recent realization hit me hard. When he was with her, which was typically 2 to 4 nights a week, he wouldn't respond to my calls or texts at all. He'd speak to me during the day, usually at lunch, reassure me he'd be coming home after work, and then just not show up. I'd call, text, email, anything to get a response. Over time, I stopped trying so hard, almost accepting that he just didn't come home much. When I went back to reread old emails, I saw myself practically begging him to admit he was having an affair. But it was always the same: deny, deny, deny. This recent reflection made me realize something, in that many cheaters go to great lengths to cover their tracks, raising only a few red flags to avoid suspicion. My husband, on the other hand, was brazen about it, waving those red flags openly, and not even pretending to care. Ignoring all communication while blatantly doing the wrong thing says to me that he simply didn't care about me, about our relationship, or about the consequences. Even after I discovered the affair, his handling of it was incredibly disrespectful. He denied everything, even when presented with undeniable proof, like the fact he fathered a child. He even went as far as to claim he didn't know the woman, which was absurd. Eventually, he had no choice but to admit to it. But he minimizes and downplays everything even now. For the first 6 months, I tried to rebuild something, though I really felt like it was almost some weird competition between her and I, even though it had happened 2.5 years earlier. It was like I had to prove myself to him, or to the world. I wanted to make him want me. It's kind of odd now that Jay think about it, or maybe it is a valid response, I'm not sure. Ultimately, I decided to leave and move 22 hours away. I was gone for 3 weeks when he showed up, and since then, he hasn't left. I refuse to live with him, not yet anyhow. He lives with his brother for the time being, and I'm not really spending much time with him, because I can't, and life is busy here with all our family. Plus, things aren't the same. I don't feel the same, and I'm not sure I ever will. He still lies about small, random things, and when confronted, his excuse is always that he lies to avoid upsetting me. But for me, if I know something would hurt someone, I simply wouldn't do it in the first place. Then there'd be no need to lie. He claims he's making an effort and trying, but I don't see much evidence of it. In my heart, I believe he followed me here not out of love, but because my leaving left him homeless, broke, and with no one else to turn to. That's the reality I'm struggling with now. He is here now to make sure I don't move on, and to wait it out until I allow him to move back in. Part of me is happy he came. Part of me feels I'll never be able to get the fresh start I was looking to find. I'm so confused and frustrated and fucking angry. Story 12. Cheating wife wants to be married and single. I have been with my wife since 2013-14. I thought she was the woman of my dreams. I was coming out of a sexless marriage and was enjoying single life. Then I met her and my world stopped. I fell in absolute love with her, so much so I blinded myself and allowed myself to be blamed/manipulated into believing that everything was my fault. I was active duty military at the time. My mind and heart were telling me something was not right, but I allowed myself to be manipulated. It started after our daughter was born in 2016. She stopped wanting me to go down on her. For some reason, we had an amazing sex life already, but it went from once a day to 2 to 3 times a day. I was not complaining, I was enjoying. I decided to ignore the warning signs and enjoy. It was great. The fight started. Out of nowhere I would get a text at work, no big deal. But if I didn't respond right away it was an issue. Or I didn't respond how she wanted. She was tired and wasn't sure how much longer she could live like this. She made me feel it was my fault, blaming me for being distant, which I wasn't, for not communicating, which we did. Then came the part she said she was falling out of love with me because I wouldn't go down on her anymore. Something she put a stop to. But after some time she turned it into my failure. I didn't realize it then, but now I do. The trips started. Girl trips, or me-time trips. She would go visit family to get away so she could clear her head. I didn't think too much of it because we did just have a kid, we moved to a new state, and she just started nursing school. So I was like, cool, go do your thing. Oh, how wrong I was. Once the trip started, our roller coaster ride became so crazy. She would tell me how great I was, and how lucky she was to have me as her husband in the morning after she would wake me up for sex. Then by lunch she hated me because I wasn't providing more money on my military pay. By dinner she was back to normal, and we would have our nightly fuck, and I would go to bed drained and happy, while she stayed up doing homework most of the night, not knowing at the time she was exchanged text and pics with dudes, and she was getting worked up and would wake me up to fuck again. Like I said earlier, I was enjoying the sex life even more, and I chose not to listen to my heart. In 2017 and 2018, it turns out she had cheated in me with her ex. Everything she would go back to her mom's in Detroit. Listen, multiple visits, but the one that haunts me to this day, and I still hurts. She went to Detroit, fucked her ex on my birthday weekend, left me at home to be dad while she got to go be a whore. December 2018 was when I finally snapped back into reality for a brief time. She went to Detroit and the next day called me professing her love for me and swore she was all in and decided that she was happy again and wanted to be my wife. I told her I knew she did something and wanted her to tell me, but no matter how hard I pushed, she wouldn't break. She had fucked her ex. Only reason she decided to be all in with us now was because they got caught, and he chose his wife instead of a whore. Unfortunately, I didn't find this out until a while, till later from his wife. So now I have multiple times of her cheating that I know of. We had a long talk, but at the time she never admitted. She just said she is happy now and wants to be my wife again. Lol, she was always my wife. So many red flags I missed. I was so manipulated into thinking it was my fault. I was too blind to see the truth and warning signs, especially when she asked me to take orders overseas for the extra money. And I did, like a dumbass. Only to be met with weekend hotel visits, because she needed a break from our kids. She finally admitted to fucking her ex one time. Now, at the time I knew it was bullshit. The voice in my head saying run, take the kids, and get away from her toxic ass was so muffled that I couldn't hear it anymore. I returned home after a year overseas to a very distant woman, clearly not my wife anymore. The spark was gone. We had always had a great sex life, but that spark was gone. In hand. When I got home, we had sexy once or twice, and it wasn't fun. It was just better than perking off. Fast forward another year. I've been gone 9 months out of 20 on deployments. My last one ever in the military. 1 month before I come home for the final time, my wife started a fight with me. It was petty, and she wanted me to fight, so I did. She used that fight to magically proclaim we was separated, and 6 days later had a girlfriend living at our brand new house that I bought while on deployment and haven't stepped foot in yet. Had a woman sleeping in my bed, a key to my house. Worst of all, she allowed this woman to put my princess to bed. I didn't believe all of it, but it was very clear the moment I stepped off the plane that everything was different. She no longer cared about me and was being openly cheating. I was crushed. All the shit I had been saying wasn't real for years, and convincing myself was just my head making shit up. Finally came crashing over the dam I built in my mind, and I was crushed. I have never been so heartbroken, so defeated. I did my best to hold back tears and pain, but it was terrible. I was home 1 month when I decided my kids would be better off without me in their lives. because I was such a failure and loser fuck up that I contemplated ways to take myself off the living playing board. I checked myself into a mental health facility, and an angel named Shannon saved me, made me realize it's not me. It was never me. It was her, and her manipulation. I had a role in all of it, but I wasn't the cause. She was the light in my darkness, and she led me back to my path. My wife manipulated me and was such a shitty person, a person I was so madly in love with, that I let that blind me to reality. Today we are separated. I have retired from the military. I have the house and the kids. I am happy. I don't tell people everything that happened because I am more ashamed. But I also don't want to ruin my kids' vision of their mom. Once I get all my retirement money in order, I am filing for divorce, and I couldn't be happier. Codependency is a bitch to get over. Captain Fix-A-Ho was my biggest enemy. Myself. There is a lot more to this story, but I think I have rambled enough. Know that she wants to work on us now that I have zero desire to do so. She is pushing for therapy for us, but I told her it would be just me telling her what a piece of shit person she is for an hour, and I still want to move forward with the divorce. Story 13. My friend confessed who they really are after 2 years of friendship. Hello. This might not be the best place to share this, but I'm going to give it a try. Just to be 100% clear, I am a boy. So I've been friends with this girl for about 2 years now. Over that time, we've built a good friendship and shared good experiences and jokes every now and then. I consider us very close friends. We met in a Discord server, and it's been going on from there. We play games together and chat a lot, though we never voice called or anything like that. But they would eventually share how they look when I asked, which wasn't often, but they sent pictures of themselves. Recently, though, they told me something truly confusing. It turns out that girl was a boy and have been keeping their identity hidden because they got used to pretending being a girl for too long, and he knew it would be difficult moving on to be friends without being 100% open and honest. I never really suspected them to be a boy. I'm not really even sure what I expected, but this threw me a bit off, to say the least. I guess I'm just surprised, since it's been so long, basically 2 years. They explained everything and wanted a genuine friendship like we had before, but only this time, a way better friendship, as there wouldn't be any more secrets to be told in the future. We weren't dating or anything, we just played around, but rarely, mostly joking. So the question is, what would you do in this situation? Would you accept them for being honest and start an even stronger friendship, or just feel too disappointed/betrayed? They were honest with me all the way, and I am actually very good friends with them now, just like before. It's not what I initially expected, but we are even voice calling and stuff now, which would never happen if this lie kept going, for obvious reasons. When I think about it, it's a bit funny actually, but turns out I turned that friendship into an even greater one, and I appreciated them for being honest. I guess the only real lies were the fake photos being sent and the gender. Please share your answers. And if something else happened to you in the past, perhaps what you would do if you were in this situation. Story 14. Why are we just playing with each other? There is a girl I met a few years ago at a professional event. I'm 32M, she's 23F. We were both in relationships at the time, but during those 3 days, we talked a lot, we liked each other, and we even kissed. Interestingly, neither of us knew the other person was in a relationship. We live a few hours apart, so after the event, things became uncertain. We met once more afterward, and it was very intense, but we didn't have sex. Since then, the connection has been interrupted a few times, but life brought us back together, and we met 2 to 3 more times. We exchanged many messages while we were with our partners, and at one point she got caught, so she broke off the connection. However, this year, she intentionally showed up at the event where she knew I'd be. There was no kiss, but she hugged me, invited me for coffee, and the chemistry between us was very hot. After the last event, I thought about reaching out to her again. We exchanged a few emails, which were long and witty, but sometimes it took a week or 2 for her to respond. I'm still with my partner, but she has had several relationships since then, yet she always seems to maintain an interest in me. Maybe she's always been waiting for me to make a move and leave my partner. I know the right decision would be to cut off contact with her, because I think about her a lot. The chemistry between us is incredibly strong, and it's interesting that no matter how much time passes, we continue the conversation as if we just left off yesterday. That's rare. My question is, why is this relationship good for her if she is also in a relationship? Why does she write detailed emails, but then take 2 weeks to reply? Why does she seek my company when we're close, even though we haven't talked in a long time? Is she just playing with me? Does she enjoy the positive reinforcement? Does it feel good for her to think she can seduce someone? Story 15. You're allowed to cheat. When I cheat on my wife, I feel alive again. When I cheat on my wife, I feel like a man again. 1. When I cheat on my wife, all is right with the world again. After years of neglect, I am putting my cock's needs above all else. Above family, above friends, above work. Hal signed. I don't regret it for a second. My wife and I have made a reasonably comfortable life for ourselves, and most of it is great. But I will not abide a dead bedroom any longer. And neither should you, if you're in the same situation. Married men with frigid wives are allowed to cheat. Do it. Don't feel guilty about it. She won't take care of your cock. But there are so many women out there who will. So many women who want to service married cock, that will love your cock in ways your wife can't or won't. Be cautious, be discreet, but definitely cheat. Call in sick so you can cheat. Make up excuses so you can cheat. Break promises so you can cheat. Lie to your wife's face so you can cheat. Cheat with complete abandon. And don't be ashamed to get caught up in the moment. Feel free to belittle your wife while you cheat. Call your wife a bitch and a cunt while you cheat. Tell the other woman how much better she is than your wife while you cheat. Tell her how much you hate your wife while you cheat. It's okay if none of it's true. It will feel so good just to say it out loud, to get revenge for your wife's inability to satisfy your needs anymore. And don't forget, you're a man. Your needs are insatiable. Tying the knot wasn't supposed to mean that you'd be forced to go without. Your wedding vows were made before you knew that your wife had no intention of treating your cock the way it must be treated. No man gets married believing he'll never have sex again, yet that's what happens to so many of us. Months pass for many, years for some. And it's unacceptable. Real women understand this, and they care for the needs of neglected married men. You're allowed to cheat. You deserve to cheat. Fuck other women behind your wife's back. She doesn't have to know. You're a smart guy. You know how to get away with it. The only thing that will stop you is the angel on your left shoulder. Don't listen to him. Be tempted by the devil on your left. Succumb. Free yourself from guilt. You know you want it. Cheat. Story 16. At a crossroads after wife cheated. About 6 months ago, my 42M wife, 38F, sat me down after I got home from work and basically spilled her guts about an affair she had a few months prior that had carried on for a few months. My first reaction was to tell her to get the hell out of the house and start divorce proceedings. But I stopped because of our family situation, one kid together, and financial ties. I struggled but ultimately decided to try and make it work. My feelings have been up and down for the past few months as we try and rebuild and continue on for our family. Her affair was with a sort of coworker who was reassigned when rumors of their inappropriate relationship spread, and complaints were made to his supervisor and her administration. She was not disciplined but verbally reprimanded about the situation. Apparently they would fool around at work. Incredibly stupid if you ask me. I wondered if her coming home late while I watched our daughter when she was either doing something for work, working out, or with a friend, was her actually out cheating. Their jobs, though different, were both top tier in terms of infidelity probability percentages. After a big blow up on my part, I told her that we can't go on unless she 100% cuts contact with him on all means of communication. Social media, phone, text, etc. I thought she did, but apparently reopened communication with him without telling me. He is married with a couple of kids too, and pretty much made it clear he was not willing to leave his family, so there was for sure no chance of them being an official item. I came to find out that she contacted him and they met up a few months ago. Supposedly they didn't sleep together, but a friend of hers confirmed to me that they did kiss. When I found that out, I knew that things were done. I went through her phone to find evidence of her affair and some other things, and I'll just say that she doesn't cover her tracks as well as she thinks. I talk to a lawyer soon to see what my options are from here. I really wanted to know if my actions were justified. In my mind, once you cheat, you lose your right to privacy with phones and social media, as it's a way to help rebuild trust. Should have cut my losses the moment I found out she cheated. Thanks for taking the time to read this. For me, it's cathartic just being able to write it out. Edit. Edit. A lot of responses are telling me that I should let the AP's spouse know. Just to clarify, apparently somebody did let her in on the affair since it's a pretty small community. I have not, as I want to get my own situation taken care of first. I will be happy to once I get my own legal advice. Story 17. Cheating husband. Are explicit convos with multiple females. 2 days ago, I discovered multiple sexually explicit conversations on my husband's phone with various women across different apps. His place. He's always been extremely family-oriented, a practicing Muslim, and claimed he loved me deeply, so this was a complete shock. He had always been protective of his phone, and I trusted him completely, even letting him go on trips with friends. When I confronted him, he immediately denied everything, claiming his friend was behind the messages. Despite his insistence, I found deleted conversations where he had asked his friend to help him message women using his accounts. As I dug deeper, I found even more disturbing evidence. Messages spanning years, including sexually explicit content from him and them, and interactions with women he'd been in contact with throughout our relationship. Some of these messages went back to significant moments in our marriage, like our wedding celebrations. It was clear that he had been hiding this for a long time. After going through everything, I messaged his friend and confronted him about what I had discovered. Meanwhile, my husband continued to gaslight me, trying to shift the blame onto me for not trusting him. I was numb, overwhelmed, and devastated by the betrayal. Eventually, I left in the middle of the night, taking a few bags and heading to my parents' house. He later sent me a message expressing regret, admitting he couldn't justify his actions, but still claiming he never met anyone in person. He apologized and said I deserved better, but I was left feeling disgusted and heartbroken. I can't believe the man I married would do this. It's clear that there's something wrong, and I'm struggling to come to terms with how many women were involved. I'm now questioning everything: our relationship, his character, and my future. He's currently begging for forgiveness, saying he doesn't see a life without me, it will never happen again, and that I can have all access to his phone, etc. He has been living a double life all this time. I am thinking lately that I was just a tool used to maintain the social perception while hiding the inner beast underneath. He married me just to carve out a hidden path to live his freedom, because otherwise, he is constrained by culture and religion. Could this be it? In all honesty, I think there's a possibility I can forgive him, unfortunately, but I want him to cry me a river, and I need to see what he is willing to do to get me back without me telling him. Right now I am standing my ground and told him he will never get me back. Ugh, I am so confused and lost. IDK. What I need to see from him to be able to forgive him. Confused face. Any ideas? Personal experiences? Story 18. Husband cheated on me. My 25F husband, 29M, of 2 years cheated on me over his phone. I went over his phone and found chats with over 50 women, flirting and exchanging pictures with them. I saw some photos for him and other women hugging each other. He went on romantic dates with some of them, and he picked them and dropped them off during the dates. He traveled to a different country for one of them. I have also seen him texting some women for adult massages, but he denied doing any. He apologized and begged me for forgiveness. He said he was only doing this for fun and validation. He assured me that nothing was serious or physical. He blamed me for it because he hasn't been happy with our marriage, and he chose cheating over divorce. The thing is, I wasn't perfect, but I trusted him more than I trusted myself. I love this man, and I love my life with him, so I chose to forgive him, but I am devastated and betrayed. I keep thinking about it every single day. It made me miss being on dates, texting new people, getting attention and validation from guys, being truly loved. I would never cheat on anyone in my life, but it's killing me. He doesn't want to go on dates with me, travel, or do anything together. He doesn't want to have kids with me either. Sex is painful for me because of endometriosis, but I ensure to fulfill him in different ways. I am not sure if I am happy anymore with him. I don't trust him, and I definitely don't feel loved. I think once a cheater, always a cheater, and I think our marriage is over, but I am not sure if I am ready to give up on our marriage yet. I know if I bring up divorce this time, he will just let me go. What should I do? Story 19. Cheating wife that I should have called the cops on. I was doing a tree job and HRN half from the house. I was working all day and didn't finish till late. As I'm driving back home, my wife texted me saying she is at the neighbors playing strip poker. Now at this time our kids was very young. I get home to find out the house is empty, minus our son in his crib and our daughter in her toddler bed. I checked on the kids then walked over to the neighbors to see what was going on. I can see in through the door window. She was 41 and our neighbor was 64. Gross. They was drinking booze, but not playing strip poker. I went back to check on the kids, then back to the neighbors. At this time I see him refill her glass with more hard liquor, but then he slips his hand down her low-cut shirt. She allowed him to play with her boobs. At this time I pounded on the door. He comes to the door and I told her to get her ass home. Then I saw her allowing him grab her breast and she did nothing. I told him to please swing on me so I can legally put him into the hospital, or better yet pull a weapon on me so I can legally kill him. He knows I'm a combat infantry marine, though unfortunately he didn't do anything. She went home with me, then started crying to her sister telling her half-truths. trying to make me look like the bad person, like telling her I take the keys to the vehicle so she can't drive, but didn't tell her I take the keys when she has been drinking so she can drive drunk to get more booze. I should have just called the cops dead her when I got home, shown the cops that she left the kids unattended, so then this way I could get full custody of the kids. But because I was blinded by my love for her, I didn't. And because you don't ever call the cops unless it's to remove the dead body. But I now regret not calling the cops. Hindsight is 20/20. Looking back, I see I was in the wrong for not calling the cops on her and frying her ass. Story 20. She, 22F, cheated on me with her ex. I, 24M, forgave and then I cheated on her. Our background. I, 24M, work as a sales manager earning $60,000, and my GF, 22F, works as a grow, high-end escort and social drinker at a club. She took interest in me when I was still heartbroken by a girl I was chasing about 1 year plus ago. At first, she wanted to just sleep with me, but I grew attached and she reluctantly let me in her life and after a while accepted me. But 5 to 6 months in, when I was visiting my parents out of state, she called her ex to come over and stay the night. Parents'. She grew up sexually abused by her stepfather, and she doesn't have any family since 18. Her ex kind of healed her and has a special place in her heart, but he kind of neglected her and didn't put in much effort. I, of course, was divested, I found out, because I suspected her behavior growing distant and went through her text messages. We went to a friend's event together, and when her ex came, she went down to pick him up. But with me, she can't show affection because her customers might notice that. After that, we went back and I confronted her, and she said, "I am like this. What are you gonna do?" So I left her. She called me back after a few days and I was soft and forgave her and let her in. Besides the fact that we can't openly declare our relationship, whenever I come home from work, she doesn't smile because she is focused on doing her makeup for work and she tends to be always late and gets mad. The daily routine is, I come home, help pack her bags for her work, help pick out her clothes, help her get food, help her get a cab, help her do her hair and wear her clothes and necklace. After she goes to work, I clean up the house and do chores. And when she gets home, she wakes me up to help her remove makeup and accompany her while she showers. I work 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and she works 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., more often than not 3/4 a.m. When I didn't pick up the call when she is on the way home, she gets mad. Sometimes when she is drunk, she gets mad. When I am sleepy because I lack sleep, she gets mad. When I leave her to do my own thing, she gets mad. She verbally abuses me and hits me. I spend so much money on her that I am in debt, but she also spends just as much, if not more, because she earns $20 minus $30K a month. She sometimes sleeps with her clients. I knew from the start, but I insisted I am fine with it, but I obviously can't handle it. We go to clubs and events together often, but she never stays by my side because, technically, she is supposed to be single because of her job, but she always talks to another guy who is her friend or whatever, and even a few previous FWBs. I felt invisible. We went to Thailand a few months back, during my birthday month for a music festival, and I booked a nice dinner for her. On the first day, she wanted to smoke weed, so I hit up a friend who hooked me up with free joints. We went over and she smoked. I don't drink alcohol, smoke, or even vape. I wore a mask, but it was still too much for me, and I got a headache and started vomiting. So the entire trip I was in the hotel, and we missed out on the dinner, prepaid, and she was mad at me while I was vomiting and sick. The entire relationship I felt unappreciated and felt like I wasn't cared for. Lack of enthusiasm and effort from her end. Yes, she brought me gifts like designer perfume and took me out to eat at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant during my birthday. And sex life was great, but I struggle with finishing, so it makes her mad. When she gets mad, she tells me to pack my things and fuck off, kicks me out like I am nothing. Even when I am trying to have a conversation and apologize, or the reason for her being mad is unreasonable at all, like me being sleepy, she tells me to pack my bags and fuck off a lot. I have to wake up 7:30 a.m. to go to work, come back, help her get ready, do the chores, then sleep, and wake up at 3 to 4 a.m. when she gets home, stay with her, and go back to sleep around 5 to 6 a.m. I am naturally going to be sleepy and have less energy. And she gets mad at me. I want to use my weekends to finish my DJ course and meet up with people to sell insurance, but she always say I am leaving her and guilts me into staying home with her. I have huge dreams, and I felt restrained. Here is my mistake. I start entertaining and texting other girls, sexually and casually. I am conventionally attractive, so girls hitting me up isn't unusual, but I typically just curve them easily because I am super loyal. But I felt too restricted and unappreciated that I decided to talk to them. I met up with some girls to talk and sell insurance, and when they flirted IRL, it felt wrong and I stopped it. But it happened with many other women. In fact, when I go to clubs, I am also a club promoter. A lot of girls try to dance with me and flirty, and I avoided them usually, but recently I allowed it to happen. Last night, she opened up my phone and went through all my texts, and while her initial response was to laugh at how ridiculous it is and take screenshots to share in the girls group chat, all of them cheaters, GROs, and people who sleep around. But after a while, she started to break down and cried a lot. I told her that I shouldn't have done it and told her honestly why. And she said I am guilt-tripping her and she doesn't know what to do anymore. I still love her and asked for forgiveness, and I told her that I will do anything to build that trust back again. We have a trip together next week with a lot of mutual friends and some of the girls in the girl group chat. But part of me felt like I should leave this baggage. In face, part of me didn't feel anything. I was crying, but something in my head said, "Why are you crying? This is revenge. She didn't love you." I was diagnosed with dysthymia, an antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. When I went for therapy about my anger issues when I was 2020, went for therapy every week, and it made me soft. I used to be aggressive and have homicidal thoughts. I still do, but repressed. But when I was crying, I can still smile. It's like I can't feel anything, and every action I make was on autopilot, like, I am pretending to do what a normal person should do. TLDR. Dated an escort. She cheated emotionally and physically, had her ex come over. I forgave. I felt restricted, unappreciated, and abused. I cheated emotionally. Texting. I still love her, but I am lost if I should just focus on myself or continue. I am aware that this sounds like a fantasy and is far-fetched, but I assure you this is true. Story 21. Boyfriend cheated with his best friend, no protection. She was also our roommate. This is my first time posting, so I apologize for any errors. A few months ago, I, 42F, found out my boyfriend 33M cheated on me with our roommate. She, 34F, wasn't just a friend or acquaintance. She was his best friend, someone we both trusted enough to share a home with. To make things worse, she's an exotic dancer who often brought home different men, adding another layer of betrayal and risk. We have been together going on for years and loving together for 2. We were friends prior to this for 8 years. I found out by going through his phone. I know it wasn't right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. When I saw the texts, flirty messages, them doing it on the couch while I was asleep, and a clear confirmation of what they'd done, as well as admitting to each other it was a mistake and should have never happened. It felt like the ground was ripped out from under me. When I confronted him, he admitted everything. He said it only happened once, that it was a drunken mistake, and that it didn't mean anything. He promised to cut her off completely, and we kicked her out of the apartment immediately. But then came the part that really crushed me. They didn't use protection. I couldn't believe he'd be so reckless, not just with his body, but with mine. I had to get tested for STIs because of his mistake. The thought that he put my health at risk, on top of everything else, makes it so much harder to forgive. And the fact that she regularly brought home other partners only made it worse. This isn't the first time her presence complicated things between us. Earlier in our relationship, we had a threesome with her. It felt like an exciting, consensual way to spice things up, and I thought we were both on the same page. This didn't happen while we were in a committed relationship, not while we were living together. But now, I can't help but feel like I unintentionally gave him permission to see her as more than just a friend. Did I make it easier for him to cross this line? Since then, he's done everything he can to fix things. He's been transparent, gone to therapy, and constantly reassures me that he loves me. But no matter how hard he tries, I can't stop replaying the betrayal. One of the hardest parts to deal with is the fact that he doesn't initiate intimacy with me anymore. He says he's been giving me space to heal and doesn't want to push me, but I can't help but think about how easily he went after her. Why did he have no problem being bold and impulsive with her, but now, with me, the person he claims to love, he's hesitant and distant? It's not like I haven't tried. I've tried to rekindle the spark, planned dates, and even initiated physical intimacy myself, but it feels one-sided. He'll respond, but it's like his heart isn't in it. I can't help but wonder, is he not attracted to me anymore? Is he still thinking about her? Or is he just racked with guilt? We've fallen into this weird routine where everything looks fine on the surface, but underneath, I feel empty. I keep wondering if I'm staying because I still love him, or because starting over feels too overwhelming. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever truly forgive him, not just for the betrayal, but for putting me in such a vulnerable and risky position. How do you rebuild trust after something like this? Is love and hard work enough to get through infidelity? Any advice or questions welcome. Story 22. Dad is cheating on mom. My dad has cheated previously, albeit virtually, to my knowledge, on my mom a few times now. She has forgiven him since, and stated that she wouldn't forgive him again. Well, lo and behold, I found out recently that he's been texting some people he knows online, And the conversations get really weird/sexual, and one of them even send them literal videos of her stripping and spanking herself. He'll try to play it cool in the messages, and sometimes there'll even be weird gaps between things he says. Like it'll be days since the last message, and without any provocation, he sent the message, "Oh, you are naughty." So it seems clear he's deleting some conversations or doing/seeing something off the app. But what do I do? I've agonized over telling my mom, and I can't seemingly find the courage to do so. My dad is a master manipulator and a liar, so I know confronting him first will not work. He lies about so many things every day, and my mom just believes him or brushes it off and will always rush to defending him, even when he's clearly in the wrong about something. But I know this would destroy her, and me and my partner are living in their home, not only by choice but also our financial situation doesn't give us the freedom otherwise if we were to seek a different place. I'm just so nervous on how to go about it. I've known for a bit now, and I feel so guilty every day about not telling her, but I also want to do it properly. I've thought about having her mom explain it to her with the information I have, letting her find it on his computer randomly, etc. What would you guys do, or have you done, potentially, in this situation? Story 23. PAWGGF makes my friends crazy. I have now a relationship for over 5 years with this unbelievable attractive girl. At the beginning of our relationship, I caught her with a dark-skinned guy. We were dating like a week. She said she didn't know I was serious with her, and she said they only kissed, etc. No sex. Like 6 months later, I hang out with my girlfriend, a friend of her, and my best friend. I immediately saw she acted differently, and even kind of flirted with him in front of me. I talked to her later about it, but she denied it was flirting. I know my best friend very well, and I know that he would fuck her brains out if he had the chance. Like her body type, etc. is exactly what he likes. But we never talked about anything. Since then, I can't stop imagining her fucking her. I know also that his dick size is like twice mine. Don't ask me why we are just the good friends, tears of joy. Is it weird that I imagine her fucking him? Like the thought started because I saw her flirting with him in front of me. And all of this kinda shows she loves the cheating/fucking random dude stuff. These are the things that I know off. And she is somebody that can be very sneaky. Could it be possible she did more things? 4. Only looking at escorts. Is this a thing? What do? I need unbiased friends here. I'm hurting and don't know what to do. My husband is truly such a great partner. We have 2 children under 4. He splits all household responsibilities 50% or will pick up whatever slack when needed. He has a great job, cooks dinner nightly, is an incredible father to our children, we have a good sex life, and he takes care of me whenever I need it, etc., etc. I could go on and on. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's really great. However, he has one major flaw that is so major, I think I may need to walk away from our marriage. He is a compulsive liar about his porn addiction and fetishes. 3 years ago on New Year's Day, I found out he had been lying to me our entire relationship about porn. He had always said he didn't watch. He came clean and told me everything, and put a plan in place to stop. 14 months later, I found out he didn't stop, even though when I asked him he'd say he did. He told me he felt ashamed, and so would lie, and then he knew I'd be pissed he'd lie, so he'd continue to lie and get so deep he would just try to hide it and hope I never find out. I knew the whole time he hadn't stopped just because I had the gut feeling, but I'd still ask him about him to see if he would be honest with me. Fast forward to tonight. I used his phone to search for something as it was near me while I was nursing our son. In his search history, he forgot to delete a search for Chicago erotic massage. I obviously dig a bit more, and he had been on an escort site. Mind you, he's going to Chicago in 2 days for work. He does often. I'm shaking at this point and wake him up. After a deserved berating, I give him a chance to speak. He explains he never had an intent to book. It's something he has done in the past too, as it turns him on more than porn because it feels more realistic. He explains it like they are real, accessible women, and he is turned on by the thought of getting off after a massage. We don't often do that unless he is massaging me, and I know he likes it, so I sort of buy what he is saying, but also like, WTF, is this a thing? I'm literally interrogating him to get him to slip and tell me he booked, has booked previously, or was going to book. He swears he wasn't going to and never has. I checked all our accounts to see any payments, or ATM withdraws that line with dates he's traveled. There are none. Relived, but still not convinced. 8. He's bawling at this point, trying to convince me it's a fetish, and he would never engage. His other fetish he had admitted to me before was cucking, because he always felt he couldn't pleasure me enough, so he'd watch videos and fantasize about other men pleasing me. Story 25 to 7 years happy together ends. This is going to be a long one, But I really think it's an interesting story. One that is incredibly painful in this moment, but in the long run I believe it will much happier and successful than I was for the 6 years we spent together. For some backstory, I am 35 and he is 43. We met working down in Northern Cali on a huge farm where we worked together for 9 months before we became intimate. After the season, and I left to go live with him in Southern Oregon. I have been more stable and content than in any of the other relationships I have had, lasting 1 to 6 years, and am so proud of myself for that. After getting clean 7 years ago, we have worked and lived together our entire relationship and have really had very few arguments and issues. Both of us have been content and happy, I thought. Maybe after a turbulent life, complacency and routine is happiness for me. There are a bit of intimacy issues that we deal with. As an abuse survivor, I have worked on it, but we could have probably done better. But that's no excuse for what transpired. We both work a ski resort in Oregon. I am a lead bartender, and he, a solace chef. We have been there about 5 years now, and very work-oriented. Our family includes 2 wonderful big dogs, as well as most of my family close. He has a cousin and her family, in Cali, who we visited a few times. We live in a nice 5th-wheeler, which my parents bought for us, drive a nice newer Subaru that we bought together, and really just were enjoying the life we made together and the love we have for one another. So let us go back to a few weeks ago. I had been a little depressed and exhausted, since we both were working full-time and even into overtime, so I chose to sleep in on our day off. I woke up when my now ex came in and started getting dressed. He said he was going to go to the hot tub at our RV park with 2 female coworkers of ours. I had absolutely no problem with this, 100% trust in us and our relationship at that moment. I even voiced my boundaries many times over the years. If you want to sleep with other women, just ask me first, please. Or be upfront and honest right after it happens. I want to assess if it would have made our relationship weird, like if I didn't like them or they worked with us. But the conversation never arose, and as I know, he never had any other affairs. However, now I am questioning everything. So, right about 1 p.m., I gave him a kiss, told him to tell them I said hi, and would see him in just a little bit. Cleaned up a little, ate some food, and about 6 p.m. I started to feel a little worried. No call, no text, just silence. That was unusual for sure. Kept reassuring myself he was fine, and one of the girls had my number if something serious happened. See, the EX is over 6 inches, probably about 300 pounds, and isn't in the best of shape anymore since he went from pulling tarps and hard labor daily on the farm when we met, and now he just eats whatever sounds good and isn't very active outside of work. Even when he got all his teeth pulled a few years ago, still found him sexy, attractive, and have only concern for his overall health and well-being. So I just kept telling myself everything was fine, and maybe he went out to the bar. After the hot tub, without coming to change his clothes, maybe they were still in the hot tub. For 5 hours. Yeah, I could have called him, but he is a grown-ass adult, and I had never needed to or agree with monitoring him. I 100% trusted for 7 years straight. Never even went through his phone or felt a need to, even though we have both each other login pins, and have stated we are willing to let the other one have it if they want. At some point, I dozed back off in bed, into an uneasy, restless nap, till about 10:30 p.m., when I woke up, startled. Realized the time, but no missed calls. I look over into his empty half of the bed. Instantly, I felt sick to my stomach, disgusted, disdain. Something in the force felt wrong, and I knew somewhere inside that he had been unfaithful immediately. Was feeling so much hurt and grief at that moment, trying to find excuses or other reasons in my mind for him. I mean, I had been so clear so many times. Just talk to me about it. It isn't a huge deal. I am strong and can handle it. Talking about it first, though, was very important to me. And he didn't. Not even a hint, and my best guess was he probably knew I would say no. Not okay with coworkers. That's unacceptable and unprofessional anywhere you work, especially since they're directly under him, and one was up to get a promotion. I took some deep breaths, worked on telling myself I didn't know what happened till he got home, still have that trust, washed my face, got a drink, fed our dogs, and went back to bed and cried. I should have called him at this point, but the hurt became anger, and that was overwhelming. So I chose to just stewed for the next 6 hours. Couldn't change things now anyway. Work on calming down and processing emotions. About 20 to 30 minutes before I assume he came in, 4:30 a.m., I fell into sleep. The sleep was dark and deep, and lasted till about 8 a.m. when I sat upright, looked over, and this time he was in his spot sleeping. Second thing I noticed was the smell. It was gross, and my first thought was dirty box, which made me a little mad right off the bat. I started grabbing all my gear to go snowboarding when he tried to say something to me I didn't hear, like, Where are you going? Although I did hear him say, "What? Are you mad at me now?" I was much snappier than I had wanted to be. 14.5 hours? Without even a damn text message to say you're fine and let me know what you're doing? What do you think? Very unapologetic tone. Sorry, we got drunk. Did you sleep with one of them? Looking me in my angry eyes, he said, no, just got drunk. Well, I am going riding, and I was out the door within moments. I tried to calm my hurt and anger. I had expected relief with his answer. Instead, it took me a while to get my emotions settled. However, I think they just got shoved down and repressed, pretending to just be fine. In fact, I was so out of sorts that even when I told myself I shouldn't snowboard that day after I parked, I did, and paid for it on the first run. Diagnosed with my 5th posterior right shoulder dislocation, 3rd time while snowboarding, 2nd try I got it set back into place out on the slopes, suspected torn ligament, and a torn tendon on my left thumb, which left it painful and immovable. When I got home from the urgent care, he was laying in bed, which was abnormal. He didn't say anything to me, and I didn't say anything to him. It was 3+ hours before I had to ask him to let the dogs out, since I couldn't. He snapped at me, asking why not, and when I said I had wrecked and gotten hurt, his attitude changed and he came out of the room. Next day at work, when people asked what I had done, I just threw out, "Don't ride angry." Told a few of my friends about what happened, but when they asked if something had happened, I confidently no. Weeks go by, and there were weird vibes the whole time. For example, when I said hi to one of the girls, she looked scared when talking to me, which stood out as odd. Other things I noticed as time went on were like conversations stopping when I walked in, looks that seemed had kitty in them, ECT. I just kept my faith in my spouse and let it all slide with my own excuses. I did ask him about it a few other times. When I started to question my lingering feelings, he said the same thing as the first time, which gave me some sense of security. He wouldn't elaborate further on what they did that night though, and though I asked, I didn't push him too hard for answers. Coming forward to New Year's Eve, we went out to a great show, got a hotel room with some friends, and partied. At the end of the night, I went for a walk, and one of the coworkers opened up to me about seeing pictures of his affair with the 2 girls, and that they had been joking about the whole event pretty openly at work. Shocked, yet gave an "it's whatever" response. My thought was, we have been drinking. Maybe he said that because he wanted to cause issues, so I might be DTF or something similar. The sneaking feeling of, I already know this though, made it hard. I just set it to the side, not wanting drama, and thinking of how to approach him when we got home. When we got back to the hotel, I was going to take a bath, but spouse asked if we could shower. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint. We hadn't slept together since the event, and a part of me wanted to try, hoping it would help prove to myself that he is telling me the truth. It didn't. It was awkward and uncomfortable. We stopped after a bit, and I looked him in his eyes and asked him point blank, again, "Did you sleep with either of them?" And got the same response. But this time, I saw the lie in his eyes. And inside, I broke into a million pieces. We ended up just going to bed, but I couldn't sleep. He slept like a baby. Went out to a weird and quiet breakfast next morning, to the point our friends said, "Wow, we must all be hungover. AF." When we got home later that night, I sat quietly for an hours before asking him again. I did this after asking if I could get some photos off of his phone, and was about to start scrolling down when he gets all, "What are you doing?" You know that there are pictures from that night you spent with them, right? People at work have seen them, and actually have the gall to tell me truth. He denied, but the guilt and shame in his eyes, his was undeniable. Instantly he wanted to know who said it, and I said, "Not your business." Went and grabbed my pillow and blanket from the bedroom, and laid down on the couch, crying and livid. About an hour later, he got up to go to bed, and I followed, telling him that he needed to tell me the truth, because this isn't going away. Finally, he admitted they all had sex. I felt the emotion floodgates open, thanked him for the truth, finally. But his choices have consequences, and my choice is leaving, and we were done. Because of the lying, we could have worked through the affair if he had been upfront and honest. He tried to blame me for the lack of sex, and I used a term I never have before, starting, "You don't get to gaslight me on this. This is not my fault. We should have worked on our relationship together." I added that I'll keep the car, he can get the trailer, which is in my name. I feel like he just gave up then. So I left with my dog, and went to stay with my brother that night. Hung out with 2 close friends / coworkers, venting and crying, and just devastated. They pointed out some of the shortcomings of what we had, and how much better I deserve and can now have. Like, haven't gotten a birthday / holiday present for a few years. I always got him something, even if it was small. He did make me one necklace just because once. He never buys me flowers, romances, or tries to connect anymore. Makes fun of me while we are out with friends, but I know he is teasing me. Takes advantage of my willingness to do so much of the day-to-day chores and paying all bills and filling out paperwork. ECT. So lucky I had called them before getting too far, and that they had insisted I came to talk before I left to my mom's, 2 hours away, in the condition I was in. Smart move. My brothers also got off work early to come and support me emotionally, and took the following night off as well to make sure I was okay and not going to make rash choices. Called out of work, just stating we separated. I needed the day off, went back to the RV the next day, with brother and friend, grabbed all my things out of the RV, but left things in our shed and some other small things we didn't have room for. He was at work that day. Also, I did send one angry, "Fuck you, dumb bitch," to one of the girls. No threats, just a straightforward, "I know now, you suck." Never got anything back or sent anything else. I did have my brother hold onto my phone so I wouldn't angry text EX or anyone else while in emotional turmoil. Stayed with brothers again, drank, and had a bunch of people come out just to see me and make sure I knew I have a strong support network. So blessed and grateful for this. Later that day, he sent me a text saying he was going to commit suicide, that it was what I wanted, and after I sent him the suicide hotline number, he texted, "No, I want you to know it is all your fault," which would have just devastated me. And though he has done this before during fights, I was taking it seriously, so I reached out to our managers to check on him, which they did, and it seemed like he calmed down. I took all ammo and knives from the house after this, which was another hour round trip to do. After speaking with people the next day, I learned he was under investigation because the woman he slept with had gone to HR to report she was uncomfortable working with him now, due of the situation. Both women are in their 30s, and I believe they knew what they were doing when they took those pictures, talking about it at work, and then going to HR after everything came out. I don't think any of these consequences occurred to him at the time, but that doesn't excuse his actions at all. He ended up losing his job that same day. Irony at its finest. I explained to manager, I did not want him to be fired, and never was going to go to HR. My plan was to leave the job, leave the trailer, and go find what else is in my future. However, I still have my job, and was given a week off to process and decide what now. Anyways, I know that was a long, freaking detailed account. Might be letting it out a bit online. I have started back up with my therapist, signed up for classes online on processing emotions, trauma, and grief, ECT. Looking forward to the future, but I'm realizing that I have been so extremely codependent the last 6 years. I feel guilt about his situation, keep questioning what I did wrong, and am struggling with letting him go. Part of me wants to go back and make things work, because I was so stable and happy the relationship. After I calmed down, we started texting again, and I have cordial, supportive, and positive, while also stating that I can no longer trust him and might never be ready to get back together. I feel like he has just pulled away, not expressing remorse, though he did say sorry, which is pointless and doesn't mean much now. No conversation about trying to have a future together, but he seems pretty depressed. I've asked him how he's doing through text once a day, make sure he doesn't want to hurt himself, called his friends asking if they're willing to check in with him, have had to get him login info for accounts, go over paying rent, send his old resume and contact information, which is just insane, I know. It's been really hard for me to just wash my hands of what we had. Honestly, I still love him deeply, want him to succeed and be happy, but know that I need to worry about myself first now and get used to that. Some of the advice I am looking for is about the RV, everyone, except his best friend who supports my feelings of keeping things fair and evenly split, who says I should give him a date to get out and take it back. I really owe him nothing and have done nothing wrong in this situation, but it doesn't sit right with me to throw him out on the street. He is a good person most of the time, and just because he made a stupid mistake doesn't mean I don't want him to succeed or make me vindictive. Since he has never had his driver's license, only a permit, I can't give him the car, and will probably end up having to trade it in for something cheaper now that financial situation will be tight for just me. Why do I still treat him kindly, with respect, and am okay getting none of it reciprocated? I mean, I am angry and hurt and said some mean things, but as time moves forward, I am trying to stay level-headed and optimistic. I don't feel being unnecessarily cruel to the EX, while confident in my choice to leave and success will bring anything helpful to the table. It's an unpopular point of view within my friends and family, as they said let him fall down and get up himself so he learns the lesson, which I understand that too. Opinions? Trying to figure out how to move forward and stay positive while manifesting a beautiful, happy future for myself, one that I am not being held back by anyone but myself. Goal to stay single a year to remember my self-worth and future out what I want out of life. Just not sure how yet. It's scary and a bit overwhelming. Any advice there? Just looking for connections. and keeping myself busy while dealing with this. Thanks for reading my rambles. Story 26. Should I give him another chance? I've suspected for a while my BF has a porn addiction, but I didn't think it was this bad. I went on his phone when he was sleeping as I got a bad feeling, and I found prostitution sites, webcam sites, and OnlyFans. He was speaking to one girl on Habis on for months, asking her to come to his house for sex. And of course she was saying to just stick to online stuff. He was sexting her whilst I was in my home country, grieving the death of my granddad. We were finally in a good place in our relationship, and he treats me well in other aspects. He's been begging me for a second chance, saying he swears he will change. He deleted his account and promises it won't happen again. I can't help but think it will. And he's just sorry he got caught. I found him MSGING, another girl, months before, and I gave him another chance, and he gave me his passwords to prove he can be loyal, but instead he was just using OnlyFans? This is a sex addiction, right? Story 27. All are the same, just caught my BF cheating. I, M35, have been dating my boyfriend, 44, for 7 months. From the very beginning, he insisted that he wanted a monogamous relationship and said it was the most important thing for him. He would constantly criticize my single friend for hooking up occasionally and another friend who had cheated on his boyfriend. He even went as far as to say that those weren't the kinds of friendships he approved of. Recently, I found out that he's been actively seeking hookups on Grindr, a popular gay dating app. He's been sending messages to multiple people, clearly very eager to sleep with other men. This was shocking to me because I made it clear at the start of our relationship that I'm monogamous, and he agreed that an open relationship was not something he wanted. I was so happy to have found someone who shared my values and believed we could build a healthy, committed relationship together. He's a psychologist, so I assumed he was emotionally mature and had worked through his own issues. But clearly, I was wrong. I've taken screenshots of his conversations as evidence, but for now, I've been pretending that I don't know anything. Honestly, I want some form of revenge, not something severe, but enough to make sure he remembers what he did. He played with my trust and made a mockery of our relationship.